SAQA members, hello. I am so honored to be here. I'm Anna Buzzalino, a textile artist, writer, teacher, and creative living in Calgary, Alberta. Not so long ago, the prairie skyline was interrupted by the vertical lines of grain elevators. I can't remember when I fell in love with them. Today, the country grain elevator has all but disappeared. By 1934, the number of elevators in Alberta peaked at 1,755. By 2002, that number was reduced to 161, with more demolitions slated. For a few years now, I have been making work based on grain elevators. Each one of these buildings represents the dreams of the people who built them, those who worked there, and those who lived in the vicinity. Imposing wooden structures that show the ravages of time, whether wood, rusted metal, peeling paint. The work takes various shapes and forms to draw the viewer in. Layer elements are used to give the impression of time passing, buildings deteriorating, disappearing slowly. I manipulate the images using different photo apps and programs to achieve the results I want for a specific piece. That may be just changing the color on them or the image altogether, as seen on the right using a filter called Mondrian in Prisma for iPhone. Warner in Southern Alberta had 2 structures demolished around 2014 and is left with 3 elevators, one of them twinned. It's one of the 2 remaining rows of elevators in the country and the only one operational. At one point, it consisted of 7 grain elevators. Here's a sequence of images to show the process I used to manipulate the image in PowerPoint. Original image changed to black and white, and then a pencil sketch filter added. The color was changed to a rusty orange, and saturation adjusted as needed. This is Warner. It's worked on a collage of fabrics with a layer of acrylic paint over the stitching. Circles are made with paint sticks, and the rusted areas are used tea bags collaged on the fabric under the paint. The image was transferred using tap and touched up with pencils and markers. Mosley, about an hour and a half from where I live, is an interesting place. You can book a 3-hour train excursion and get an insider look at how the buildings have been key to bringing prosperity to Canadian communities since their construction over 90 years ago. A great way to spend an afternoon. This is the wooden annex in Mosley. I wish I could go up that wooden ladder to see what I can see. Private property and dangerous, so I haven't dared. The image was converted to black and white, saturation and color adjusted, and made into a screen, which you'll see in some work coming up. This piece is untitled. It's a paper lamination using the screen I made with the top of the annex you saw before. Can you see the detail in the photo at the bottom right? The paper lamination was placed over a drop cloth canvas, which brings out the burgundies and blues. It was stitched using straight lines. The prairies changing landscape is a whole cloth piece, monoprinted, and the marks made with a credit card using paint. A paper lamination was cut up and rebuilt to suit the composition. It won first place in abstract at the International Quilt Festival in 2017. This is Mosley. The 3 images screen printed on trench liner and then overlapped. The background was printed using a cola pen and diluted India ink. Paint sticks were applied through a freezer paper stencil. The bottom is screen printed and overprinted. There are 2 different pieces here. The one on the left is a work on paper. The writing, which reads "the prairies changing landscape," a phrase I often use, is an acrylic skin. The piece on the right was painted with thickened Prussian dyes. It's called Still Standing. Elevator in gray is once again the same image as in the previous slide. The elevator at Mosley, screen printed on trench liner and applied to a piece background using hand-dyed and hand-painted fabrics. Circles were done with a rubbing plate with paint sticks and collaged on top. The background on this piece was a cleaning cloth during a session using thickened dyes. I keep a cloth to try different tools, colors of dyes, etc. I liked it so much, I decided that I would make a stormy background stitched with straight lines. The image of the grain elevator is an acrylic skin. Work in progress here. The background was stamped using large wooden letters in different sizes and thickened dies in various colors of red. The words spell abandoned, decaying, and forgotten, which is a phrase I use often to inspire work. I'm using a paper template. Shadows of the Past was painted using thickened dyes. The background was a mop-up cloth that was then scraped with a deep magenta color. The grain elevator was created using text in different sizes to create the different areas of the grain elevator. It was free motion quilted on a Bernina Q20. Most of these pieces are work in progress and were created using a screen where the design was drawn using thickened black dye through a needle nose bottle. Then it was left to dry and used with different colors of thickened dyes to create the prints. The bottom image is stitched and ready to hang. 2 works on paper using images of grain elevators, text, and watercolor paints to continue and complete the design. I use text often on my pieces, and is meant sometimes to be read or is there to be seen as a means of expression and to add texture. I'm going to leave you with one last piece created using thickened dyes. The image of the grain elevator was done with a deconstructed screen, first in rusts, printed on top with a different screen and black, and then the background was scraped with black. Lots of hand stitching was added for texture and interest.